And thanks for smashing that link. I'm back to share with you what I've learned after nearly 1 year of riding all 3 of these Carver truck systems. I feel like my Carver Truck Comparison review was a really fun video and I had a blast sharing that with you guys, but there's some things that came up in the discussion forums and different things that have changed since I made that video that I'm really excited to share with you here. So please stick around. And like I said in my first video, it really comes down to where you're skating, what you're skating, and how you're skating. So let's say, for example, if you're getting your first surf skate and you're not a surfer, the CX is going to be the right choice for you. And here's why. It's the most versatile. So depending on how your skating progresses, this may be the best way to go. If you're just looking for a daily cruiser, commuter, and this is your first ever surf skate, the CX truck system is my recommended truck system for that situation. Let's say you're already a skater and you want to get a surf skate. Well, that's where the C5 comes in. The C5 is hands down the skater's surf skate. Or if you progress as a surf skater to the point that you find yourself skating transitions and parks more than anything else, the C5 system is definitely something you want to take a good look at. But not to say that the CX system isn't well suited for that. One of the challenges you'll have with all these truck systems is this. See? So this is a problem consistent all across the Carver truck systems, except for the C7, interestingly enough. The Kingpin does not clear the dropper. So when you put this up on coping, get ready for this to catch. How interesting is it that the stock Kingpin setup on the C7 totally clears the dropper by massive amounts? It's just that with this board, I've never had it up on the coping, so maybe someday. The Kingpin sticking beyond the dropper was also an issue on this C5. However, Zam at Boise Skate Supply looked at it and said, hey, let's just flip that Kingpin over, and sure enough, now I've got the clearance that when I put this up on the coping, I've got lots of space there. Before I start this challenge, it's especially important for me to point out how important it is for you to make sure you size yourself right with your stance to make sure you get the correct wheelbase on no matter which Carver truck system you choose for yourself. I'll leave a link in the description below to my friend Steve's channel, Surfskate Love, where he solved the formula, and it's incredibly simple. All you have to do is figure out your stance and then go from there. I'm 17 inches. So technically the swallowtail is too small, and I didn't know it at the time, but when I purchased the green room, I was getting a longer deck length, which meant I was getting a longer wheelbase. Not to say I can't ride the swallowtail, but it becomes more of a specialty ride in the sense that it's going to be really sporty and fast. Versus the green room is long and cruisy, mainly because of its wheelbase and its deck length. Your stance width and your wheelbase is hands down the most important factors when deciding what's the right surf skate for you. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so an interesting challenge that came up in the comments section was to start out with the surf skates without a kick. Someone pointed out in one of my videos that I kick push every time I start off on my surf skate. So the challenge here is going to be to start on the C7, the CX, and the C5 without a push kick and see how far I go. Okay, so I'm going to start with the C5s on my Streetscape. These have the Carver Park wheels. They do amazing at skate parks and they do great on the wooden ramp. And they do pretty darn good on the asphalt. So let's give this a go. Okay, that snake came out of nowhere. Did you see that? Okay. It didn't really snake me. It was more of a photobomb. That was hilarious. That's in the nature of the scooter. They can't help it. This is actually pretty hard for me to do because I tend to push when I step on the board, even in the lightest fashion. Okay. All right. I'm going to do it for real. Swallowtail CX. Right, so now C7. All right, so that surf test was really cool. Definitely starting everyone out without a push kick was different. In terms of ankle rock factor, the C5 definitely came in dead last. There's no doubt about that. And I'm really torn between the C7 and the CX, and here's why. I think the CX with the short wheelbase for a skater like me, it's really fun and sporty. For a beginning skater, somebody without surf experience, I feel like this is going to be a better truck system to learn to ankle rock on. Having surf experience, I feel like the C7 is going to be a better truck to start on because the spring in here is going to give you that snap that you can really snap out of your front foot. Now, however, a lot of surf coaches will tell you that this front foot movement is not a good thing of carrying back over to your surfboard, but I feel like if you're just surf skating and you're not a surfer, this is definitely one to progress to versus the CX is definitely one to start with. You may have seen in some of our videos where Kelly's learning to skate, not only does the Swallowtail have the perfect wheelbase for her stance, but the CX truck is a much better truck for her to learn how to surf skate on because she's not a surfer. So she's got a little bit of experience on a longboard and she's now carrying it over to this CX truck. I began surf skating because our wave was inaccessible for a while and I'd been hearing all these great videos from surf trainers about surf skates, but I fell in love with the Carvers and I would love to try some other surf skates. So if anybody wants to send me surf skates to try, I'd be happy to review them and make videos about them. All right, let's get padded up. All right, let's get skating. am here at the Skate Park in Star, Idaho. This is a newer park and it is amazing. It is hands down the surfiest skate park around. I'm gonna set up some cameras, get some cool shots on these surfy banks. All three of these, we'll shoot them out and we're gonna really test them on that surf carve feel here in a park setting. Okay, one of my favorite things about this park is definitely this section right over here. So check this out. This is a really good surfy section. And yeah, so let's get some shots of these three surfing this thing. We'll just take a minute and I'll ride all three truck systems and all three skates right here in this little transition section, both front side and fakie, and see how that feels. All right, I feel like the CXs, these CXs definitely offer some nice control rolling back. Really like the CXs for that feel. They are a really great skate if you're beginning to learn to surf transitions. This is a good one to start with. Okay, so my second board, green room with the C7s, much surfier feel. Also want to point out too, I do got these guys cranked down a little harder than I normally would, and I think that's coming from what's been happening with my transition riding on the mini ramp. But yeah, so I'm gonna put it up on here and roll back a couple times. We'll see how that feels. Whoa, as you can see right there, that was much looser in the nose. Coming back down, that nose was just all sorts of sketchy. Let's do it again. All right, I got it a little better that time, but you really have to unweight your front foot when you're rolling back in the fakie position on a C7. If you leave any weight forward, and this thing's gonna get really snaky on you. Let's do one more. Snaky and fakie. Okay, that proves right there that I was much more confident going further up this lip to transition back further, steeper, fakie on the C5. I just bailed off the C7 because it felt sketchy. I didn't feel confident about it. Let's try it again, see, get a little further up. All right, yeah, I got a good one that time. Okay, so the C7 definitely gets snaky in fakie. Streetscape, C5, C4 trucks, lower center of gravity, double concave with that popsicle deck design, that popsicle style. I love this skate. This was my favorite in the last video, but this video is a different test. I think it's gonna be a much better shootout in terms of all three of these truck systems. But let's throw this up on the ramp. I pretty much know how I'm gonna like this riding fakie. my first time up that ramp, I was all the way up it. My first time, I just stomped right up it on this thing. So yeah, I mean, this is where this setup, and I do believe the deck definitely plays an integral part in this particular C5 setup. I've actually tried a lot of traditional skates, and I feel like Carver just absolutely nailed it with this deck. The deck width being just a little over 9 inches, and it doesn't look as wide of a deck as it is. It looks like a slimmer board. It's just amazing. I absolutely love the Streetscape, and I cannot recommend this enough, especially if you're doing transition skating. Here's what's happened with my transition skating. Let's be real. If you're a fan of our channel and you've been watching our videos, I've been making a lot of videos about my skate shop and the wooden mini ramp that's there, where I learned how to ride Fakie basically on this skate. And also where I've tried out all those other skates I'm talking about too. So here's the thing, progressing in that, and with that, interesting twist. Again, if you're a fan of our channel, you know we just started skating at middle age. Like literally, I'm just coming on my 1-year skate anniversary. Had I skated as a kid in the 80s and 90s, I'm pretty sure I would have wanted one of these. So I don't know if it's just out of my newfound love for skateboarding and the fact that Powell Peralta did this classic reissue, and it is a true classic reissue. This is a very legit build that I built with Sam at the skate shop. These trucks, I mean, these wheels, everything about it. It's a very, very special board. This would have been the board I would have wanted and not been able to have as a kid, because I couldn't have afforded something like this. I would have never got something like this. I would have been on a Kmart board, or because Walmart's weren't a thing then. But yeah, so really stoked. And ultimately, talking about transitions, this is where my transition skating has gone. And I will still continue to ride surf skates because I love surf skating. Big reason why I wanted to make another video talking about these 3 truck systems is I was so biased to this transition setup because of where my skating progression was with transition. But now that my skating progression has gone here in transition, and I'm gonna roll this up and down and you'll see here. So let's give this a roll. Right, I mean, seriously, this thing, next level transition skating board. This is retro reissue, right? And back then, skateboarding really was surfing on concrete. And this deck design and deck style, I mean, come on, as a surfer, what surfer doesn't look at that and go, wow, that looks like a sweet deck? So that's really a big part of this. But ultimately, the skateboard has evolved to the popsicle is the evolution of the skateboard deck. I would never argue that with anybody. This is a retro reissue, more about nostalgia and me trying to reach into my childhood, I guess, and me being a kid. I feel like one of the things skating at middle age like I am, a big factor of that is trying to feel young, trying to stay young, trying to recapture my youth. And something like a classic reissue build does feed that sense of nostalgia that I'm really reaching for in my skateboarding, and I absolutely love it. I would be happy to try some other surf skate manufacturer surf skates, but I'm just not going to be willing to invest money into that because I'm really happy with my quiver, and I feel like my progression is going actually a little bit different direction right now, and maybe I'll get back to more traditional surf training. My wife is just beginning her progression on that surf skate. She's just learning to surf skate, so that's very, very exciting for me. See her make her first carves on her surf skate. And so of course I'll be pump gliding and surfing, skating with her as we progress, as
we progress together in our skateboarding journey at middle age. It's absolutely amazing thing. And I really thank you for supporting this channel and being a part of our journey. So smash that like, make sure if you're not subscribed to hit that sub, because it's really important for those YouTube algorithms to help us grow our channel. Thanks much. Yeah, so that's the ride. Yeah, time. Thanks for sticking around this far into the video. So now I'm here at the Fort Boise Skatepark, one of my favorite places, old school bowls and transitions, and a perfect place to kind of summarize and recap the transitions with these three. So ultimately the CX, hands down the most versatile. So it's gonna take you from Surfskate training, learning to surf skate, to getting up on transitions. You might wanna tweak that Kingpin, like I talked about earlier in the video, but not a problem. The C7 definitely has a surfier, cruisier feel here, but that may be what you want in a surf skate. Like, you may want that surfier feel and want to just pump carve down through these transitions, because depending on where your level as a transition skater and what you're surfing in transitions, especially when we're talking about surf skates and transitions and not typical skateboards. So that's a big difference, because I think as a surf skater we tend to view these bowls and transitions much differently than what a normal skateboarder will view it. I'm looking for the flowy line so that I can roll in and roll out and complete a line, and I want to try to get through the park as much as possible. Like you saw in the last video out there in Star, that outside perimeter line is just super fun to surf through, and that's what makes these fun. Now I've already done some edits of this park, and I've included this park in many of my previous videos, so I just really wanted to come out here and shoot this recap. If you're looking for a true skateboard feel, you're going to find more of that in the C5. However, the C7 can still be very rewarding. So ultimately, it comes down to what you're skating, how you're skating, and where you're skating. So hope you enjoyed this video, and please again smash the like button, hit those subs. That really helps with those YouTube algorithms. Stay tuned, we've got some exciting news that we're going to be bringing to our channel that's coming out here really soon that I'm really excited about, and I can't wait to share on the channel. So appreciate your support.